SportsBeat is powered by KSLSports.com.
Jack Moss breaking a tackle. 91 yards for Moss.
Jazz IU has the INT.
Simpson to Tua.
No touchdown BYU.
Devin Lloyd, touchdown Utah. Their third defensive touchdown on the season.
Thanks for watching SportsBeat. Jeremiah Jensen and Sam Farnsworth with you for the next 45 minutes. The Utes look like Pac-12 contenders again, while the Cougars just look lost. We'll take a deep dive into both teams later in the show.
I miss all the guys, but you know, it's just Joe is Joe. Everybody loves Joe.
Well, over the past week, we've been given our first glimpse of the 2019-20 Utah Jazz in preseason games against the Bucks and the Pelicans. Both games resulting in losses, but thank goodness it's just the preseason, right? They still showed us a lot to get excited about, beginning with the backcourt tandem of Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley. They made their debut together on Friday night against the Pelicans, and how's this for a stat line? They combined for 24 points and 14 assists. According to Royce O'Neal, every good thing this Jazz offense can do really begins with these two guards.
You know, Mike starting it, him and Donovan creating, the offense. Bo Young's a great passer, and Joe coming off the bench being a playmaker. And then, myself, George, and Jeff, making plays for everybody else. And then Ed and Rudy finishing down there. That's just a start to what we can do. We just got to work on it every day.
At the beginning of the new season, especially with several new players on the team, it takes time to gel together. Coach Snyder thinks most people judge team chemistry by how well they play together on the offensive end of the floor, but Snyder told us today that for this Jazz team, it's really how they're able to get on the same page defensively that matters most.
Guys are coming from different systems where they played a certain way, communication's different personnel, learning to play with Rudy, what that means. So I think, we're a work in progress. I think the teaching component as much as anything, and seeing how much time you have to spend on something. You can't move to the next thing until you feel like you've got it right.
Former Provo High and BYU star Kyle Collinsworth was signed to the Jazz this week. He's expected to play with the Utah Stars, but he does have NBA experience, 32 career NBA games, which included 2 starts with the Mavericks. He participated in his first practice with the Jazz today, and he knows this opportunity comes with no guarantees.
I've been in these situations where it's gone my favor and not my favor, but I just take it day by day, just stay present, just maximize each day. And, because you just keep thinking ahead, you get anxious a little bit, so I just stay in the moment and enjoy playing basketball.
This is awesome to see Kyle back in Utah, but it's going to be great for the Salt Lake City Stars to have somebody who's from here that fans recognize that can draw people out to Slick and watch this team play.
Yeah, no doubt. And also, Jazz fans, they get their first look on the home floor in a real NBA preseason game on tomorrow night.
Can't wait to cover it tomorrow night for everyone. All right, time for a break. But when we come back, Game 2 of the ALCS is in extra innings.
And we dive into what's going right with the Utes and those Cougar woes.
Down the sideline for Hodgins, it goes airborne, and Johnson broke it up.
David and Sly join us to tell us how the Utes defense was able to shut down one of the nation's top receivers.
Well, you don't have to be a football fan to love this, the inspiring story of Johnny Stott. SportsBeat continues after this.
SportsBeat is powered by KSLSports.com.
Welcome back to SportsBeat. You know the old saying, the bye does a body good, right? It certainly did for Utah running back Zach Moss. He had rushed for 373 yards, averaging 6.5 yards per carry, and scored 4 touchdowns before being injured in their loss to USC. But when he returned to the field yesterday against Oregon State, he did not miss a beat. On just his 4th carry of the game, he turned on the Jets for a 91-yard touchdown run, and he would get just one more attempt, in the game, but wouldn't you know it, it was another touchdown. His day was done after that. 5 carries, 121 yards, 2 scores. Not a bad tune-up for this weekend's game against ASU. Quarterback Tyler Huntley, he entered the game in the top 10 nationally for completion percentage. After connecting on 14 of 17 throws yesterday, he's now completed more than 75% of his passes this year. That ranks 3rd in the country. He passed for 247 yards and 2 touchdowns, running his season total to 9 touchdowns without an interception. He's now thrown 133 passes without a pick. That is also 3rd in the country. Oh, and by the way, he's 2nd on the team in rushing this season. On the other side of the ball, Oregon State had no chance. Jake Luton came into the game with 14 touchdowns, 0 picks, but the Utes got after him. Bradley and I brought the pressure, tipping the ball that was picked off there by Devin Lloyd. He took it out of the air and the rest of the way, 64 yards for the touchdown. That's Lloyd's first career interception. Luton was also held to a season-low 131 yards and completed just 50% of his passes in the game. Now, trying to run the ball against the Utes defense is like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It just doesn't work. Oregon State was stonewalled to just 48 yards on 22 carries. 4 different Beavers carried the ball more than twice in the game. None of them averaged more than 3 yards per carry. The Utes' rush defense, 2nd in the nation, allowing just 52.8 yards per game. So really a dominating performance for the Utes all around in their big win against Oregon State. David Nixon, Stevenson Sylvester, they're joining us now in-house to talk about it. We could talk about a lot of things with this game, but let's start on defense. They were near perfect yesterday.
Yeah, really all 3 phases for the Utes were working yesterday, but really defensively, Jaylen Johnson had a game.
Yes, he did. He wanted to shut down Isaiah Hodgins. Isaiah Hodgins came into the game leading the conference in receiving yards, so we didn't want to have another USC whoa. But Jaylen Johnson followed him around the whole time. Here on this particular play, he bites on the slant, but on the double move, but recovers. His recovery is amazing. So what you want to do is you want to open back up after you bite on the slant because you don't have over-the-top help. And as we said before, when the receiver goes up and you're beat, play the hands. All you got to do is put your hand right in the middle of their hands. If he doesn't catch the ball, it's a defensive win.
Well, I love about it, too. He never looked back at the quarterback. He immediately sought the receiver. Like you said, put his hands in his hands, made a huge play.
Yeah, if you're beat, then just play the hands and get the ball down. Because if
don't panic.
Don't panic. Don't panic. But if he completes it, that's where you lose. But if he doesn't complete it, it's a win on defense.
So let's fast forward. Big 4th down stop by the Utes defense. And it was all about penetration.
It was great. I loved it. Lucky Fold, too. They came in here and disrupted everything. It was awesome. So you have slanting D lineman here. Max Tupai has the edge. So all you got to do is mess up this middle area right here, and the running back sees nothing. And they get back there in 0.25 seconds and ruin that whole 4th down attempt for the Beavers.
The pad level, the penetration, the legs driving. As defensive guys, man, this is a beautiful sight to see. Guys in the backfield, 3-4 yards back, blowing it all up. I mean, that's the Utah-type defense we've come to know, right?
Yeah. Utah's on a roll right now. This is the way you want to come out of a bye week, and they did great. Their defense played lights out. Oregon State barely got a score at the end of the game, 52-0, pretty much.
Basically shut them out.
It was an amazing performance by this defense.
Okay, so we talked enough about the defense. The offense puts up 52 points. Let's talk about the progression here. I mean, beautiful play right here where Samson Nacua comes up with a big-time catch.
Yeah, right. This game, 500-plus yards of offense, 250-plus yards of rushing. But here we want to see how Tyler Huntley is just – he's playing amazing right now. You're getting amazing time in the pocket to throw this ball. Look at this. Amazing. And then when he throws the ball, he puts it only where Samson Nacua can catch the ball. And a great adjustment by Samson here at coming back over the back shoulder and catching it. That is not an easy catch right there, but only place the receiver can make the play right there because you have a post safety. So great job by Huntley and Nacua.
And we didn't even get into Zach Moss. Zach Moss comes back after the injury, comes in, 5 carries for over
121.
121. Yeah. Unbelievable.
I'll take 20 yards of carry rushing.
Not that average, right?
Hey, they're setting the table nice for this weekend. Arizona State in town. Looking good. Samson Nacua, though, I want to ask you about him. Is he emerging as another deep threat? You got Thompson, Simpkins, Dixon. They've all had great seasons so far. The last 2 games, Nacua, 8 catches and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and this is what we wanted to say. Covey is not playing right now, so all these guys other guys got to step up. And they have depth. That's one thing we came into this season knowing that these guys can step up. Simpson, Dixon, all these guys can make plays, and they're doing it. Huntley's able to spread the ball around to all these dominant athletic guys. And Nakua is definitely a sure-handed tight end, almost hybrid tight end guy.
Yeah, there's a lot of depth on that Utes offense, no doubt. All right, you guys will be back in a bit to talk about BYU. Jeremiah?
Now we transition to BYU. Those back-to-back overtime wins over Tennessee and USC seemed like they were years ago, right? It's been a struggle since then for BYU. The Cougars have lost 3 straight, including losses to Toledo and South Florida. In those 2 games, the Cougars have been outscored 27-0 in the 4th quarter. There was some excitement to start when Jarrin Hall made his first start, and he played well. 15 of 23 for 148 yards and a touchdown. This pass to Dax Milne was outstanding. The one-handed catch, even better. BYU had a 10-0 lead after that score. Jarrin also rushed 16 times for 83 yards and a touchdown. His long was 32 yards. This 29-yard run with 7:50 left in the third gave BYU a 23-14 lead. Confidence heading into the 4th. But then this happened with 12 minutes left in the 4th. 3rd down, South Florida blitzes. Jarrin Hall pays a price. He left the game with an injury, and that is when things fell apart for BYU. No word yet on Jarrin's status for Boise State on Saturday night. BYU's poor run defense was exposed again. BYU is 123rd in the nation in rush defense. They allow 4.79 yards per carry, 224.5 yards per game. South Florida averages 157.7 yards per game. Well, they rushed for 243 against BYU. The Bulls scored 3 rushing touchdowns in the second half, 2 in the 4th quarter. Jordan Cronkrite put them ahead for good with 7:37 left. He rushed for 158 yards and 2 scores. BYU hasn't scored in the 4th quarter since the USC game. Now 2-4, and BYU's bowl eligibility now in doubt when you consider who's left on the schedule. Boise State, Utah State, and San Diego State still out there. David and Sly back to break down the Cougars, and man, there are so many things right now that just make you scratch your head with BYU. We'll get to that run defense, which I think is the biggest concern, but that offense is just not putting up enough points.
No, they're not, and Jarrin Hall getting knocked out early in the 4th quarter was a big reason why.
Yeah, this BYU offensive line struggled the entire afternoon. They gave up 13 tackles for loss, 6 sacks. And a lot of it's because miscommunication right here. You see the center calls a lucky call, which means they're going to shift to the left, try to pick up the blitzers. They leave some guys open, come up the middle, and when that occurs, you knock your quarterback out. Right here, you have a free runner that comes right up the alley, and this is a free shot on your quarterback, and unfortunately, he takes out Hall, gets a concussion. Now he's in concussion protocol. We'll see what happens with him this week with Boise State if he can come back. But this was the theme of the game for this BYU offense. Offensive line, they weren't on the same level, and they weren't on the same page the entire game. It was very, very ugly sight to see.
Right. And even when you do get close down in the red zone, you couldn't close.
Yeah, the problem was BYU had 3 opportunities within the 22-yard line, 22 and in, and came up with 0 points. And this is one of those type of drives where BYU 3rd and 5 situation, and they're going to run a fly sweep. And BYU just doesn't have the speed to keep up with USF. USF, that's the one strength they had was speed. And sure enough, right here, Gunnar Romney on the outside, on a fly sweep, you've got to have receivers that can block and block well. BYU didn't. They came up, USF made a big stop. BYU eventually got no points out of that drive.
And even at the end of the game, you want to throw a Hail Mary to get it. Who should you go to in that situation?
Listen, even with all the woes that BYU had during this game and the struggles they had, they still had an opportunity to win the game at the very end. Here's the last play of the game. They're going to go 3 by 1, so 3 receivers up top, 1 below. But look right here, Bushman. If you're going to go up top, make sure Bushman is up there. He's your tallest receiver. He's your big tight end. Give him Ronald Lulu Pututau out there. Instead, look at the 2 receivers going up for the Hail Mary catch. You got Leva Hifo and Dax Milne, the 2 shortest receivers on this BYU team. They don't stand a chance back there, and unfortunately the ball falls short. Listen, I guess at least it was a progress from last week where the ball went out of bounds.
Right.
So at least they had a shot this week, but it was just ugly. And listen, Baylor Romney came in and actually had a pretty decent game, 6 of 10 throwing, and there's a good shot he's going to be the guy this week. So we'll see how he progresses this week in practice. Now he gets those starters reps.
Yeah. But again, this BYU defense, the run game is just, why can't they stop anybody on the run?
They gave up 243 yards in this game. The 3rd time they've given up over 200 yards this season rushing. And if you watch it, it's very simple to see. BYU's middle linebacker, Algier, he sees a puller. What do, Sly, when there's a puller?
The puller tells you everything. Go with the puller.
Go to the puller. Meet him downhill. Instead, he's still 5 yards deep. Look where he's catching the block.
Yeah.
He's 5 yards from a line of scrimmage. You're going to lose every single time. On top of that, BYU's linebackers taking wrong angles. You're going to have a safety taking a wrong angle. And in doing so, comes up with a huge 40-yard run here. Just ugly, ugly run defense. And it was basically because of middle backers, defensive line getting washed out their gaps. When they go back and watch this film, they're going to be embarrassed. Because what happened on this particular drive, South Florida lined up. They ran 10 consecutive run plays all the way down the field. Didn't even attempt one pass, and they got a touchdown. So basically they lined up and said, listen, mano-a-mano, man-to-man, we're going to cram it down your throat, and they did. And BYU could not stop them. It was embarrassing, and this is something this BYU team, like I said, they've been susceptible to the run all season long. They've got to figure it out. Otherwise, Utah State, Boise State this week, they're going to come right after you and try to run the ball at you. And if you don't have it figured out, it's going to continue to be an ugly season.
So BYU's on their third-string quarterback. You've got two teams that run the ball well in Boise State and Utah State coming up. The run defense is awful. As a former player, David, is there anything they can do in the next 2 or 3 weeks to get this thing back on track?
Yeah, there always is. When it comes to run defense, you can switch up the schemes, right? You can go from the standard 3-4 defense that BYU's running out to a 4-3. Heck, even go to a 5-2. I don't care what it is. You've got to figure out the guys that are willing to come up and meet guys on the line of scrimmage. A lot of it comes down to, yes, BYU's playing younger linebackers right now that are struggling to get their reads. As we saw right there with the puller, you've got to be able to recognize that puller and meet him in the gap. But they're struggling, and so they're playing hesitantly, and they're one step too slow. And that one step in college football, it's everything. And it opens up gaps for guys to run 40 yards down the field. So they've got to trust their reads and their eyes, and these guys got to continue to get experience. But if you're Elias Tuiaka, the D coordinator, you've got to put your guys in successful type scenarios to let them go out there and win the down. And right now, this is not happening.
We'll see what adjustments BYU can make against the 13th ranked team in the country in here on Saturday. Bowl eligibility suddenly on the line. Sam?
Yeah, so now we move on to next week. The 14th ranked Utes host 17th ranked Arizona State Saturday, 4 p.m. The early line has the Utes as a 13.5-point favorite already. And BYU, well, as you mentioned, they will renew their rivalry with 13th ranked Boise State. With plenty of history between schools in both of these matchups, let's dig into our archive by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. The last time BYU beat Boise State, 2015, and it wasn't just any old win. It was a miracle. The week after beating Nebraska with a Hail Mary, quarterback Tanner Mangum did it again, connecting with Mitchell Juergens on 4th and 7 with less than a minute to go. Then BYU capped it off with a pick six from Puka Nacua in the final seconds to win it 35-24.
Arizona State has had the best of this matchup since Utah joined the Pac-12. Utes 2-6 versus the Sun Devils, but they got the best of ASU in 2016 in Tempe. Troy Williams threw 4 touchdown passes, 3 of them in the second quarter. Joe Williams took over in the second half, an 82-yard run in the third quarter. He had a 40-yard run in the fourth. And then the defense got in on the fun, too. Remember this, 11 sacks. Hunter Dimmick had 5 of them. And Chase Hansen, pick 6. The Utes hope they can do the same on Saturday. They beat the Sun Devils back then, 49-26.
All right, up in Ogden, Jay Hill continues to put together another winning football team at Weber State. The Wildcats are the 5th-ranked team in the nation in FCS, and they're led by a stifling defense that's ranked 11th nationally in scoring. They held SUU to just 14 points in a win yesterday, and they gave T-Birds quarterback Chris Helbig headaches. They picked him off 4 times in that game.
All right, up next, the best of Week 9 of the high school football season.
And a story that will definitely inspire you. Sports has ways of bringing the good out of this world unlike anything else, and the story of Johnny Stott does just that. This is something you do not want to miss.
You know, Sam, I love the game of football. It can teach so many valuable life lessons that can last a lifetime. It can also provide opportunities like this we're about to show you that can change lives and inspire good.
Yeah, we were there on Friday night to capture one of those moments you're talking about. KSL's Andrew Adams has the story of Johnny Stott.
Let's go. It was just hours before kickoff. Like throw it over, then follow through, then do this, and don't even look. And Johnny Stott was going over the game plan.
There's a lot of people going to be watching, huh?
He'd been looking forward to this day. Yeah, big game, bro. I'm so excited. Ever since he was a little boy.
I told you we're going to have a inspiring story a little bit. I just wanted to introduce, you guys know this kid right here? His name's Johnny.
It wasn't always a given Johnny would be here.
I had paralyzed muscle throughout my whole body.
Born with a rare genetic mutation.
That's spinal muscular atrophy, lower extremely predominance.
It seemed like a distant dream.
And my struggles have been my legs.
That Johnny would ever take the field.
Being on the sideline managing is the hardest thing ever.
Let alone be the inspiration for younger players.
And I want to be out there hitting people.
Johnny never gave up.
But he has maximized everything that he's been given.
So we always call it the Johnny way.
When people say I can't do stuff, that really bugs me.
So that's his thing, is just overcoming and being happy and being grateful for the journey.
On this night,
Yeah, he's never worn a helmet. He's never worn pads.
the journey once again brought Johnny out to Green Canyon's football field.
Johnny, start!
The high school senior, who had always watched from the sidelines,
Let's go, Joe!
was finally wearing pads.
Starting quarterback.
And on the first play,
For the Wolves, number 82, Johnny, start.
in live action, Johnny was starting at quarterback. It didn't matter that the pass was short. It was how far Johnny had come.
It was a dream. He's our Superman.
No matter what lines up against him in the game of life, Johnny
It was so fun.
is determined to score.
It was the best experience. Oh, it's been my life dream to do it all.
Andrew Adams, KSL 5 News.
That was awesome. Part of a great week of high school football. Each Saturday at 6 p.m. on Game Night Live here on KSL, we bring you the best of the high school football week.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen it yet, you're missing out on a great show, but we do bring you a little taste of it here. It's this week's highlight reel.
Great clips of the week.
All right, let's start with something that might bring Jazz fans to tears. Oh, man. Derek Favors, we miss you, man. And look how much, this is how much Derek Favors meant to the players on the team. And I know how much he meant to fans out there. It's just so weird seeing him wearing not a Jazz jersey, but it was really cool to see all by to that clip. Weber State, actually, we're going to go to Slick Soccer. This is the soccer team in the locker room having a little fun, little headers. And eventually, what are they going to do? In the garbage can. They shoot, he scores. That's hockey, sorry. All right, Weber State.
Yeah, 4 picks yesterday. How about this one from Brody Burke, though? I think he went all ballet on that. It looked like a little, I don't know what you call those things.
Weber State, great, great, great. Did you see this? Puka Nacua from Orem High School. They finally turned him loose up in Seattle, and man, did he have a game. What a catch. He's a freshman, by the way. Greatest high school receiver in Utah history.
He's got a big career ahead of him. Here's Jalen Hurts. He goes behind the back with the football to avoid the pressure. You know, if the NFL doesn't work out for him someday, I think maybe the Harlem Globetrotters, I don't know, he should think about it.
Yeah, Harlem Globetrotters. I don't even know what this is, but it's pretty cool.
Nice. I mean, look.
What's going to happen here?
He carries the defensive
He carried
pack.
the defender into the end zone. All right, and here we go, Sam.
Yeah, we finally tip our hat to Utah volleyball head coach Beth Lanier, honored on Thursday night for 30 years with the program. Way to go.
And they had a big comeback win on Sunday. Congrats, Coach Lanier.